For some 700 years, this city stood dead. Then people walked into its streets. Tired, dust-covered, a tribe come down from the north, looking for a home. And they saw this. An avenue 40 meters wide, running toward a mountain. A pyramid the size of a hill. Hundreds of platforms overgrown with grass and cactus. They asked, who built this? No one knew. They asked the peoples of the valley, families who had lived beside the ruins for generations. Who built this city? No one remembered. So the newcomers decided this was not built by humans. Here, on this avenue, at the beginning of time, the gods had gathered and created the sun. They named the city Teotihuacan, the place where gods are born. These people called themselves the Mexica. We call them the Aztecs. Everything you have ever heard about this city is someone else's words. Teotihuacan is an Aztec name. The Avenue of the Dead is an Aztec mistake. The Pyramid of the Sun is an Aztec guess. The city's real name, no one knows. The language of its streets, unknown. Who ruled it for 6 centuries? Not a single name. We know only one thing. One day, someone walks down the main avenue carrying fire and burned only the temples and the palaces. The homes, they left standing. Invaders do not do that. Your own people do. This is Teotihuacan, the city with no name. These are its streets. The Valley of Mexico. Altitude, 2,300 meters. The air is thin, the light is hard, the nights are cold. Around 100 years before our era, a settlement begins to grow here, beside freshwater springs in the valley's northeast. Then the volcanoes intervene. In the 1st centuries CE, eruptions devastate the south of the valley. Whole peoples abandon their dead lands and walk northeast, toward water, away from the ash. The city by the springs takes them all in, and it begins to build. By the 3rd century, something rises here that has no equal in the Western Hemisphere. The Pyramid of the Sun. The Aztecs will name it that. Its real name is unknown. 65 meters tall. The 3rd largest pyramid on the planet, after Cholula, after Giza. The city is planned like a blueprint. The main avenue, straight as a beam, 40 meters wide, several kilometers long, aims at a sacred mountain. The entire street grid is rotated 15.5 degrees east of north, not by accident, but by the sky. This is how the city kept its calendar. Even the river was not allowed to run wild here. The San Juan River was picked up and relayed into a canal that follows the city grid. By the 5th century, around 100,000 people live here, possibly more. By some estimates, the 6th largest city on Earth in its time. 8 or 9 of every 10 people in the valley live inside this one city. These people never saw Rome, never saw Chang'an. They did not know other empires existed across the oceans at all. They built a megacity from nothing, alone. Morning. The sun is still behind the mountain and the city is already awake. To understand Teotihuacan, forget everything you know about ancient cities. There are no hovels of the poor crowding against palaces here. Here, almost everyone lives the same way, in apartment compounds. Stone-built, single-story, blank outer walls, light falling in from sunken inner courtyards. Drains under the floors. The floors, polished red plaster. Each compound holds dozens of rooms, several families, a shared shrine in the patio. There are around 2,000 of these in the city. This is the first apartment city in human history. They arrived at the idea without ever hearing of Rome's insulae and built it better. And this city is painted, all of it. Walls here are not whitewashed, they are written on. Processions of priests, coyote and jaguar, the rain god pouring seeds and jade from his open hands. A paradise of singing people among butterflies and flowering trees. Archaeologists will call Teotihuacan the city of painted walls. There are more murals here than in all other pre-Columbian cities combined. Walk the neighborhoods and you hear the speech change. Here is the Zapotec Quarter, people from Oaxaca. They have lived here for generations and bury their dead by the customs of home, in stone tombs beneath the houses. Here is the Merchants Quarter, traders from the Gulf Coast. In the Tlahinga district, on the southern edge, nearly every second resident is an incomer. The isotopes in their bones betray the water and maize of other lands. The city speaks many languages and makes all of them its own. And here is its gold, green gold. Obsidian from Pachuca, volcanic glass the color of bottle green, sharper than steel. Teotihuacan's workshops supply blades, points, and mirrors to all of Mesoamerica. This is the bloodstream of the city's economy. Mystery 1. Where is the king? Egypt has pharaohs. The Maya have lords with names and dates. Here, nothing. Not one royal tomb in a century and a half of digging. Not one portrait of a ruler. Not one name across 600 years of the city's history. The murals show processions of masked priests, all identical. No figure stands above the rest. Some scholars believe the city may have been ruled not by a king, but by a council, several great houses sharing power. It cannot yet be proven, but 20 centuries before our own, arguments about power, this city may have lived without a single sovereign. Mystery 2. The silence. Teotihuacan has signs. They appear on murals, on vessels, on the floor of one district, an entire plaza gridded with glyphs. But no one has yet assembled them into readable writing. A city that held 100,000 people every day left us not one legible line. Mystery 3. The Long Arms. On a January day in the year 378, the Maya wrote down the date. A man named Siyaj Kark, born of fire, enters the city of Tikal, 1,000 kilometers from here. That same day, Tikal's old king dies. The throne passes to the son of a foreign lord, the Maya scribes call Spear Thrower Owl. We told Tikal's story earlier in this series. Now you know where that fire came from. The weapons, armor, and insignia of the newcomers are drawn by the Maya unmistakably. It is the style of Teotihuacan. The city with no name could reach into the very heart of the Maya world. And the last mystery, the tunnel. October 2003. Rainstorms over the ancient city. One morning, archaeologist Sergio Gomez finds a sinkhole at the foot of the Temple of the Feathered Serpent, nearly a meter wide. He ties a rope around his waist and goes down into the dark. Beneath the temple lies a tunnel, 100 meters long, sealed by its own builders around 1,800 years ago. The middle of the 6th century. Something breaks in the sky. The year 535. Across the planet, the sun grows dim. A distant, monstrous eruption veils the atmosphere. In Europe, chroniclers write of a year without summer. Here, in the highlands, the droughts begin. The harvests fail, year after year. Archaeologists will read it in the bones. In the 6th century layers, more and more children's skeletons carry the marks of hunger. And above, along the Great Avenue, the elite still wear jade and quetzal feathers. The palaces are still being painted. The sacrifices still go on. The city that feared no one outside never noticed the enemy growing within. Around the year 550, it happens. Fire moves through the city. But it moves strangely. The temples on the pyramid summits burn. The palaces along the avenue burn. The administrative halls burn. The residential compounds stand. No one touches them. The statues of gods and lords are not merely toppled, they are broken methodically into pieces, and the pieces are carried off in different directions, so that no one will ever assemble them again. That is not how you loot. That is how you execute. No trace of a conquering army. No foreign spear points in the walls. No mass graves of defenders. There is an invasion theory. It is debated to this day, but the pattern of destruction stubbornly says something else. That hunger ran out of patience, and the city burned its own rulers. The city's heart is killed, and the body begins to cool. The people leave, generation by generation, quarter by quarter. Within 2 centuries, where the megacity stood, villages among ruins. The city with no name died the way it had lived, like nothing else. For most dead cities, the story ends. For this one, a second story begins. For 700 years, the ruins stand under the sun. Squatters live among them. The city's name is erased from the valley's memory, completely. Then the Mexica arrive, and what we began with happens. Not knowing the truth, they invent the city a legend, the best one possible. Here, the gods created the 5th sun, the one we all live under. The dead city becomes a sanctuary. Aztec rulers make pilgrimages here from their capital. They dig in the ruins and carry ancient masks and vessels back to their own temples. The Great Pyramids of Tenochtitlan are built with these older ones in mind. The city with no name was defeated by time and conquered its conquerors. The Spanish will come next, then centuries of oblivion. In the early 20th century, the first great excavations. The Pyramid of the Sun is cleared and rebuilt for the centennial of Mexican independence. In the 60s, mappers walk the entire city square by square and put thousands of buildings on the map. In 2003, a rainstorm opens the tunnel. The excavation inside it continues to this day. Today, from the edge of Mexico City to these pyramids is less than an hour. Millions of people climb stairways every year whose names were invented by strangers. And somewhere under the unexcavated mounds, and only a small part of the city has been dug, the answer may still be lying. A tablet, a tomb, a name. Until then, it remains what it was for 7 centuries to the Aztecs and a century and a half to us. All city greater than all our words for it. This was Teotihuacan, the city whose name no one knows. The streets remember what the people forgot. Subscribe, more streets are waiting.